All right. My next guest is the former Attorney General for the state of Michigan, Mike Cox. He's been not in politics for a bit, but he's back in now because he's running for governor here in the state. Mike, nice to have you back on the program.
Steve, I've been out creating jobs and building a business. So you're right. I've been out, but I'm
Well, that's
back.
important.
It's important,
Yeah.
especially when,
And
as you know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it's tough in Michigan. We were just talking about that with Brian Postumus. It's tough because the taxes went up. I think it might have been the only state in America that raised taxes. The infrastructure is not in great shape, even though the current governor said fix the damn roads too many times, remember, right? And it still didn't happen. And now it looks like the Democrats are going to shut down the government come next month. I mean, a lot of
You know,
problems to fix here.
100%. So we're coming into Labor Day weekend, and what's labor about? It's about honoring workers. And here in Michigan, we, as you indicated, we have an income tax that we raised, the only state in the nation that's raised their income tax, and I don't know, at least the past decade. And as you know, Steve, because I've been on before, my number one issue is eliminating the tax on work, eliminating the income tax, and join the 10 other states that are booming because they realize that when you take taxes off workers, they go out, they create jobs, they work harder, and they create robust economies. And that's what we have to do here in Michigan.
Yeah, that's what we have to do here, and there's no question about it. I mean, look, we need to make Michigan a business-friendly environment, but instead we got rid of right to work. We brought back prevailing wage. We've raised the income tax. I mean, if you're going to run a textbook on how not to attract business and then sit here and wonder why did Indiana just get a brand new car factory and we didn't? What's
You
going
know,
on? So what do you do about it, right?
well, I heard Brian talk a little bit about, this concept. I hate to use a concept, but it's really called economic gardening, meaning let's make the ground good for everyone. And they plant their seed, they plant their ideas, and whatever works grows instead of trying to pick out winners and losers. Steve, if you think about it, think about like Elon Musk, all the bad investments he's had, or all these private equity men and women who have bad investments, and they're trained to make the right sort of investments. Governors aren't. Governors should just create environments, lower the burden on taxes, lower the burden of regulation, create environments where our neighbors. You're in the media. I have my own business. Ourselves and our neighbors can grow jobs, and let the best ideas triumph. Instead, we have corporate cronyism. We have these criminal investigations, the MEDC, and so we have cronyism and corruption in Lansing, and our state's largest city still leads the nation in violent crime. It leads the nation. When I say that, of course, it's been the second highest in violent crime in the past 4 years, according to the FBI. 70% more violent than Washington D.C. Imagine that, 70% more violent than Washington D.C. So I want to bring back fundamentals, right? Let's create safe neighborhoods. Let's get out of the way of people creating jobs, and let's fix our schools.
All right, let's talk about schools for a moment. You just brought it up. Let's talk about education. We haven't done that on the program for a while. So, all right, you put it out there for me, Mike. Let's talk about education. Too many people are coming out of, they're just, look, our reading proficiency is down, our math proficiency is down. When we're looking at Mississippi as the people setting the standard, man, what has happened to us?
100%. My parents came here a generation ago. My mom's still alive, to America because a union carpenter like my dad was, and a maid like what my mom was, could raise their kids, and they could go to good public schools and get ahead. And every parent could dream that their kid could get ahead. And sadly, that has left this state. And it's interesting you bring up Mississippi. I have two granddaughters who live in Hernando, Mississippi. One just graduated, started Old Miss today, and they get a better education than the kids in my neighborhood in Livonia, Michigan. Let me repeat that. My granddaughters in Hernando, Mississippi, a town no one on your show has ever heard of, get a better education there than the kids in my neighborhood in Livonia, Michigan. That's a failing of education, but really that is a moral shame because
It
the
is.
kids the kids in the South aren't any brighter than our kids are. But 12 years ago, and this is the optimistic part about Mississippi. They fixed it in the course of 9, 10, 11 years. 12 years ago, they were the bottom 5 state. Now they're consistently a top 15 state in education across every demographic, white, black, male, female. And, so what we have to do is we don't have to reinvent the wheel because we know it works. Requiring third grade reading, which the governor got rid of, rating schools, which the governor got rid of, creating more school choice, which the governor's trying to defund. Uh, let's bring those three concepts to full fruition, and our kids can do just as well as the kids in Mississippi and across the world. Because if we're going to train our kids to compete against India and China and Brazil, it starts with us. We can't expect Donald Trump to save us. It starts with us, and that's why I'm running. I think the people of Michigan want a
Well,
job
here's
creator.
something else, Mike.
Yeah,
Here's something else. While you're on that track of top five, bottom five, look, when I was born in the 1960s, Michigan was a top five state when it came to wealth. We were a wealthy state. Not anymore. We're falling down, way down the list. Michigan's not a wealthy state anymore. That's why the roads aren't done, the infrastructure is broken, the kids don't have an education that's as good as it should be at the local schools. That's a fact. We can do better in all of these places. And it's not just about throwing my taxpayer money at it. How about some new ideas? How about doing something a little bit different so we're not broke all the time? How about lowering taxes or eliminating them like they do in Tennessee and Florida and New Hampshire now? New Hampshire now has no state income tax. You know what that means? The people from Maine and Vermont on either side are going to crowd into New Hampshire and spend lots of money. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion. We need to do better, sir.
100%, Steve. You think about this: eliminating the income tax, the tax on work works, as you pointed out. And you think about geographically different kinds of environments. So it works in the East, New Hampshire. It works in the West, Washington. By the way, a Democrat state. It works in the North, North Dakota. It works in the South, Texas and Florida. All those are different kinds of economies, but they've all done better when they eliminated the income tax. But it's taxes. Then we go to regulation. Steve, my daughter, who's a nurse in Mississippi, and she works for Memphis Baptist, so she works both sides of the border, Tennessee and Mississippi. Do you know that during COVID, when the governor is saying we need healthcare workers to come to Michigan, my daughter, who can travel to 42 other states because her license allows her to do that, because those 42 other states have decided that we'll accept nurses within those 42 other states, she couldn't come to
Sure.
Michigan. She couldn't come to
Sure.
Michigan. You talk about overregulation. That's the epitome of it. Makes
Frightening.
us attractive.
It's frightening.
That's
You
right.
know, in the year I was born, about 5% of the people going to work on a Monday morning had to have a license to go to work. Now it's close to half. Maybe we're overregulated. Tell folks where they can find you.
Mike Cox 2026, MikeCox 2026, and Mike underscore Cox on X. And we're looking to engage, and we're out there. Hey, Steve, I encourage you to encourage all the other candidates. Let's do some debates. It worked in 2015 and 16 in identifying the best guy for president. We need to do that for the best man or woman for governor of Michigan.
Mike, good idea. Heck, I'll moderate it. I'll be your guy. I'll handle it
I would
all.
love it. I would love it.
We'll do it. Mike
All right.
Cox, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. You have a great week.
You too. I'll take a break and be right back.